In the world of corporate ambition, the battlefield is not marked by trenches or barbed wire, but by boardrooms, balance sheets, and the silent maneuvers of strategic minds preparing for takeover. War finance, at its core, is the art of fueling conflict, ensuring the resources, intelligence, and momentum needed to overwhelm an opponent. When examined through the lens of modern business, this idea becomes a revealing blueprint for understanding how some companies rise to dominance through methods that resemble military campaigns more than traditional commerce. Corporate takeovers, particularly those executed with precision and foresight, embody the same principles that commanders once relied on to win decisive battles: intelligence gathering, strategic planning, and the element of surprise. When observed closely, the business world is a theater of war where the most disciplined tacticians, not the largest armies, often emerge victorious. In the early stages of a corporate takeover, intelligence functions as the most essential currency, just as reconnaissance once guided armies toward vulnerable footholds. Market research becomes a form of espionage, delivered not through covert operatives but through data scientists, analysts, and strategists who sift through patterns of consumer behavior, financial reports, supply chain inefficiencies, and demographic shifts. Before any company attempts to acquire another, it builds a dossier, evaluating weaknesses, mapping risk, and identifying the precise pressure points that make an acquisition not only possible but profitable. This intelligence often determines whether the company proceeds with a full assault or retreats quietly, waiting for a more opportune moment. In many high-stakes scenarios, the companies that fail are not the ones without resources but the ones without insight, proving that even in corporate struggles, victory belongs first to those who see clearly and early. Once intelligence is secured, strategy becomes the guiding force, mirroring the detailed campaigns of military commanders who choreographed entire wars on parchment before a single arrow was drawn. In the corporate world, strategy crystallizes as business plans, acquisition frameworks, and long-term financial modeling. Executives work behind closed doors to project not only the immediate impact of a takeover but the ripple effects months or years later. They must anticipate the reaction of competitors, regulators, clients, the media, and the market itself. Like seasoned generals, they have to consider not only how to advance but how to protect their flanks, ensuring that the takeover does not stretch the company too thin, compromise key operations, or ignite resistance from shareholders who view the move as reckless. This strategic discipline distinguishes impulsive ventures from calculated victories. To the public, a takeover may feel sudden, but behind that moment of execution lies months of planning, negotiation, scenario building, and financial positioning. The strategy is not simply to buy a company, it is to integrate, transform, or neutralize it in a way that drives long-term advantage. In this world of careful calculations, surprise retains a uniquely potent role. Innovation functions as the modern corporate version of an ambush, catching competitors unprepared and often unable to respond quickly enough to protect their territories. Companies that master the art of surprise do not merely introduce new products, they shift the terrain entirely, forcing rivals to scramble in unfamiliar conditions. Innovation may appear in the form of disruptive technology, a radical change in pricing, an unexpected merger, or the unveiling of a business model so different that competitors cannot rely on their usual playbook. Surprise is powerful because it creates confusion, and confusion provides an opening. In historical warfare, this was the moment when armies charged. In corporate campaigns, it is when companies leverage the confusion to capture market share, secure key talent, or lock in strategic partnerships before competitors regroup. The true masters of corporate warfare know that innovation is not a one-time weapon but an ongoing strategy designed to keep opponents off balance. War finance plays a critical role in enabling all of this. To seize another company, one must possess not only strategy but ammunition, capital. Just as nations finance their armies through bonds, taxes, and borrowed resources, corporations fuel takeovers through leveraged buyouts, credit lines, stock issuances, and private equity infusion. Financial structures become war chests, and the ability to build or deploy them often determines the success of the campaign. Companies must balance aggressiveness with stability, ensuring that the financial burden of acquisition does not compromise the health of the empire they are trying to expand. The most successful financial campaigns are those executed with near-surgical precision, minimizing waste, maximizing leverage, and ensuring that every dollar serves a strategic purpose. When a company underestimates the financial load of a takeover, the consequences resemble the collapse of an army stretched too far from its supply lines. When executed wisely, however, war finance becomes the backbone of a takeover, enabling victory without crippling the victor. The modern corporate landscape is littered with the ruins of companies that underestimated how fierce and unforgiving this battlefield can be. Some failed to invest in intelligence, marching blindly into markets they did not understand. Others produced strategies that sounded bold but neglected economic realities. Some placed their faith in outdated models, leaving themselves vulnerable to innovative strikes that redefined the industry overnight. And many simply ran out of financial ammunition, exhausted by overexpansion or mismanagement that drained their resources before they could secure their objectives. In all these cases, the lesson remains the same. Business rewards discipline, foresight, and adaptability, the same traits that define the greatest military minds. Yet corporate warfare differs in one key respect: the battlefield is invisible until the moment of conflict. Competitors do not always announce their advances, and battles are fought not through open confrontation but through subtle financial movements, strategic partnerships, intellectual property races, and technological leaps that happen silently behind the scenes. The companies that thrive in this environment are those that embrace the mindset of wartime leaders, constantly gathering intelligence, refining strategies, and preparing to strike when the conditions are right. They understand that business is not merely a competition of products but a contest of endurance, creativity, and strategic brilliance. In the end, applying military strategy to corporate takeovers is not about glorifying conflict but recognizing the reality of modern competition. The companies that dominate markets are often the ones that think like generals. They prepare meticulously, adapt swiftly, innovate boldly, and invest wisely in the financial structures that make their ambitions possible. This mindset transforms business from a passive pursuit into a dynamic, high-stakes battlefield where only the most strategic survive. The documentary story of war finance in the business world is not one of destruction but of calculated expansion, where every decision shapes the territory a company will hold, the influence it will wield, and the legacy it will leave behind.